Have you ever walked into a room and felt the mood just drop? That was my Tuesday morning meeting. The air was so thick you could almost see it. Our manager hadn't said a word, but his silence was louder than any shout. His coffee sat untouched. His pen tapped a tense, irregular rhythm on the table. And you could see everyone else reacting. One person subtly shuffled their papers, skipping a slide they knew might be contentious. Another offered to grab a fresh coffee, their voice a little too bright. Everyone was doing this delicate, unspoken dance, what the Japanese call Kijin, who torted gently, trying to appease his mood, just so we could all get through the hour. I remember watching this collective effort to manage one person's emotional weather and thinking, what a fragile system, all this energy focused outward. But what if the real power wasn't in trying to fix his mood, but in learning how to protect our own? This shift in thinking is at the heart of a simple but profound Japanese concept. Go Kijin. Okay, so let's unpack this idea of goki. To really get the essence of it, I keep thinking about this story I came across about Yuna, the young systems engineer in Tokyo. Her experience, she shared it anonymously online. It just perfectly illustrates this concept. Imagine her mornings, right? The train ride felt like a compression of all the city's anxieties. And her office, a relentless battlefield. Deadlines, urgent emails, constant pressure. She found herself just running on fumes, Her own mood was basically a casualty of this unyielding pressure. She described feeling like a ghost, just going through the motions, totally disconnected from her own emotional landscape. Then, one day, she noticed her senior colleague, a woman in her 50s, Mrs. Abe. And this colleague always seemed to have this quiet, unshakable calm, even when everything around her was chaotic, just like Yuna's environment. Yuna was intrigued and honestly probably desperate for a change, so she finally mustered the courage to ask her secret. Mrs. Abe just smiled gently, pulled out this small, worn notebook. It was her Go Kijin list, her good mood list, though it was clearly much more than that. And it wasn't filled with grand ambitions or huge tasks. It was tiny, incredibly accessible joys. Things like the specific, delightful taste of perfectly ripe strawberry defuku, or the 5 minutes she deliberately spent watering her small desk plant. Even just the satisfying feeling of her favorite pen gliding smoothly on paper as she made a note. Simple things. So inspired by this humble yet really powerful practice, Yuna started her own list. On those days when stress was tightening its grip, deadlines looming, she would intentionally check something off, maybe stepping outside for just 3 minutes to feel the sun on her face, or immersing herself in one specific song from her favorite band, or, slowly savoring a special brand of hojicha tea, noticing every little nuance, the earthy aroma, the warmth. The external stress, obviously, didn't magically vanish, but Yuna discovered she'd created these small, powerful anchors of control in her otherwise turbulent days. She wasn't just reacting anymore. She was actively, curating her own well-being, gently but firmly redirecting her internal state. And this story, I think, really highlights how Go Kijin is about this proactive self-mood regulation, how it enhances your mental resilience, your emotional well-being, even in really high-stress places.
What's truly fascinating here, and Yuna's story illustrates it perfectly, is that while Go Kijin might broadly translate to one's mood or emotional state, its true essence is about a proactive approach, taking charge of your emotional well-being. It's a profound shift, isn't it? Away from that traditional Japanese cultural sensitivity of Kigen wo toru, that act you described, trying to appease someone else's mood, to really taking personal care of your own emotional landscape.
Right.
It's an inward focus, a personal responsibility, which is, frankly, critical in our demanding modern lives where external pressures can so easily dictate our internal state if we let them.
So if I'm hearing you right, it's about taking the reins, not just, waiting for good feelings to happen, but actively cultivating them. It sounds simple, almost deceptively simple. But what do you think is the deepest power in that deliberate act? Acknowledging what brings you comfort and then intentionally weaving it into your day, it feels like a direct route to boosting mental resilience.
That's a great distinction, yeah. The power lies precisely in that shift from passive reception to active creation. It's about regaining a sense of agency, realizing you're not just a leaf blown about by the winds of external circumstances, When you consciously create a Go Kijin list or implement these small acts, you're not just indulging yourself, you're actively engaging your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain responsible for executive functions, for conscious decision-making. You're giving your mind a different pathway to focus on. You're interrupting those reactive stress cycles. It's a subtle form of cognitive reframing, really, where you redirect attention away from the problem, maybe just for a moment, towards a small, controllable source of comfort or joy. And that is a vital component of mental resilience. It allows you to bounce back to maintain equilibrium.
That concept you mentioned about creating a pocket of space, that ma that really resonates, it makes me think about how foundational self-awareness must be, not just for personal well-being, but for effectiveness in any role, right? Especially leadership. From your perspective, how critical is cultivating deep self-awareness for effective leadership? What kind of impact does it really have?
That's an excellent connection to make because ma and self-awareness are deeply intertwined. In Japanese arts, music, architecture, painting, ma isn't just empty space, it's the intentional pause.
Okay.
It's the pregnant silence between notes in music, the negative space that defines the positive form in a painting. It's that moment of anticipation, the deliberate void that gives meaning to everything around it. Now apply that to our inner world. When a strong emotion arises, anger, frustration, whatever, instead of immediately reacting or trying to suppress it, you create a ma, a deliberate pause, an empty space in your mind.
So you don't get swept away.
Exactly. It isn't about avoidance. It's about stepping back to observe the emotion without immediately identifying with it. It's the difference between saying, I am feeling anger rather than I am angry.
That's a subtle but huge distinction.
It is. And that subtle distinction gives you that critical moment, the space to choose your response, to decide what you do with that energy rather than being swept away by an automatic reaction. This is really the pathway to emotional balance, even when things are chaotic externally. And this profound level of self-knowledge genuinely helps you navigate complexities with grace and efficacy, because you're operating from a place of understanding your own internal landscape. Self-awareness is often defined as this combination, right? Self-knowledge plus the crucial ability to use that knowledge.
Choose it, Hale.
To monitor your own thoughts and emotions. And critically, to understand the impact these variables have on your decision-making. People who are highly self-aware, they tend to have better self-control. They exhibit superior situational awareness, they perceive and understand their environment more accurately, and they approach life with a more proactive rather than purely reactive attitude.
It sounds like it powerfully counteracts that self-absorption we can sometimes fall into, where we're solely focused on our own internal needs and wants. Instead, self-awareness, especially when you cultivate it through practices like creating ma, it seems to open us up.
Right.
Open us up to our physical and emotional environment, allowing for genuine introspection and maybe an open-hearted willingness to embrace new knowledge and adapt.
It absolutely does. It's unequivocally the cornerstone of emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman, who really popularized the concept, argues self-awareness is the first and most essential component. And that's backed up, by research, like a 2012 MIT study.
So it's foundational.
Completely. It's not just a nice to have. It's crucial for developing all the other components of emotional intelligence. Things like self-regulation, managing your impulses, motivation, your drive to achieve, empathy, understanding others' feelings, and social skills, navigating relationships effectively. Think about it. Without a clear understanding of your own emotions and triggers, it's incredibly difficult to manage them effectively, let alone understand and respond appropriately to the emotions of others around you.
Makes sense.
This is precisely why leaders who cultivate deep emotional intelligence can better connect with their teams. They can truly understand their diverse needs and inspire them to achieve their very best, because they're starting from a place of clarity within themselves.
Okay, so we've seen how Yuna discovered her Go Kijin list and found these anchors of control in her, turbulent days. But for many of us listening, translating these profound ideas into everyday practice, especially in our busy lives, that can be the real challenge, right? So let's turn to the practical side. How can listeners start bringing this idea of Go Kijin into their daily routines?
Right, the application. It really comes down to 3 rather simple, actionable steps. Much like Yuna's intuitive approach, actually, but grounded in conscious effort. First, you need to consciously notice your mood.
Just stop and notice.
Yes. Take a moment, maybe several times a day, just to check in with yourself. Ask, am I feeling balanced right now? Or am I irritated, restless, perhaps overwhelmed? Just the simple, non-judgmental act of noticing creates that vital ma, that pause. It breaks the automatic reaction cycle. Second, you actively add small comforts. Think about what genuinely lifts your spirits. It could be something sensory, a favorite song, a particular calming scent, maybe the warmth of a mug in your hand.
Like Yuna's tea.
Exactly. Or it could be something physical, like a quick stretch or just a breath of fresh air. Or maybe something intellectual, reading one paragraph from an inspiring book. These are your anchors, your gentle nudges back towards equilibrium. The key is that they must be easily accessible, minimal effort required.
Got it. Keep it simple.
Precisely. And third, you consciously choose your emotion again. Once you've paused and added a comfort, you've created that space, that ma. Now, within that space, ask yourself, do I really need to stay upset or stressed about this particular thing right now? And then actively look for a lighter, more balanced perspective. This isn't about ignoring problems, let's be clear. It's about deciding how you want to feel as you approach them.
Yeah.
Even these small, consistent practices, like Yuna's daily checkoffs, can gently but powerfully create your own Go Kijin, cultivating a sense of calm and control over your inner landscape.
It's almost like a daily recalibration, isn't it? A gentle tuning of your internal state amidst all the noise of the world. What's really fascinating here is that in a world full of constant demands, just overwhelming information, relentless external pressures, the ability to choose your mood isn't just a luxury or some fleeting act of self-care. It feels like a fundamental skill, a skill for personal well-being and resilience. It offers a pathway to navigate life with greater peace, greater purpose. And when you cultivate it within yourself, it seems like it naturally creates this positive ripple effect, gently spreading to those around you, fostering a more balanced, harmonious environment for everyone. It's a testament, really, to the quiet power of internal mastery. Okay, switching gears a bit. When we talk about waste, my mind immediately jumps to something I heard about a furniture designer in Tokyo. It really shifted my perspective on what waste truly means and challenged my preconceived notions. The story is about Ryo, a young furniture designer, just started his own workshop in the historic Asakusa district of Tokyo. He was ambitious, focused on modern efficiency, and using sleek new materials, priding himself on quick production. Saw himself as forward-thinking, leaving the old ways behind. Then one day, his elderly landlord, Mr. Tanaka, comes by, a retired cabinet maker. His hands just bore the wisdom of decades spent with wood. He visits Ryo's bustling shop. Ryo's in a state of frustration, complaining about this large plank of Zelkova wood, beautiful, high-quality wood, but it had this prominent dark knot right in the middle, which in Ryo's eyes rendered it useless for the perfectly sleek, uniform tabletops he was designing. He was literally about to discard it, just saw it as a flaw. Mr. Tanaka quietly stops him. His hand gently touches the wood with a reverence Ryo had never seen anyone show to, well, a mere plank. "Madanai," he whispers. And it wasn't a scolding. It was a statement of deep, almost melancholic regret. Mr. Tanaka then explained that Madanai wasn't just about the waste of the wood itself, as Ryo understood it. It was a profound waste of the decades the tree spent growing, patiently absorbing sunlight and rain, stretching towards the sky. It was a waste of the logger's energy and skill, who carefully felled it, brought it to market. And most importantly, it was a waste of the wood's own unique story, its life force embodied in that seemingly imperfect knot. Over the next week, the old man returned to the workshop. He didn't lecture. He patiently worked alongside Ryo. And together they designed a new tabletop, one where that very knot became the central, most beautiful feature, the undisputed heart of the table, a focal point of unique character. Mr. Tanaka taught Ryo to see not an imperfection, but a unique identity, a mark of authenticity, of history. This story, I think, beautifully illustrates the profound implications of Makanai, going far beyond simple waste reduction to encompass this deep respect for inherent value, fundamentally shaping sustainable consumption and fostering a more ethical, less disposable approach to resources.
That story perfectly captures the essence of Matanai, doesn't it? It's often translated quite simply as, what a waste, and while that captures a superficial aspect, its meaning is far, far deeper than that simple phrase.
Deeper how?
It carries a quiet gratitude, a profound humility, and an inherent, almost spiritual respect for the life, the time, the effort inherent in things. It's not merely an economic concept, it's a truly profound philosophical stance that permeates many aspects of Japanese culture.
So if it's more profound than just what a waste, does that mean its scope is much more expansive than just physical objects or material things? Is it truly about recognizing value in unexpected places?
Absolutely. The term matai in itself combines matai, which signifies the true, dignified value of something often imbued with an almost sacred quality and nai, meaning the absence or loss of that value. So literally it means something like, it's a shame to waste what is truly valuable, or don't let something precious go to waste. And that extends far beyond just material objects. It can apply to wasted time, squandered opportunities, underutilized talents, even people's feelings and potential. For instance, if you let a rare skill go unused, or if a team meeting wastes everyone's time and energy, that could absolutely be considered madanai.
Interesting.
It's fundamentally about cultivating a mindset that sees value and potential in what others might overlook or dismiss as insignificant, recognizing its dignity, its innate worth.
I recall reading about how this word gained global recognition through Wangari Maathai, the Nobel Peace Prize laureate from Kenya. She really championed the concept, didn't she? Seeing it as encompassing more than just the commonly understood 3 Rs, reduce, reuse, recycle. She insisted on adding a crucial 4th R, respect. That really resonated with me, adding that layer of deeper meaning to our environmental efforts.
Indeed. Mathai's insight was brilliant because that deep respect is truly rooted in ancient Japanese philosophy, heavily influenced by both Zen Buddhism and Shintoism. Shintoism, for example, it's an indigenous religion that believes all objects and natural phenomena possess the spirit of kami, a divine presence.
So everything has a spirit, in a way.
In a sense, yes. It means that even a single grain of rice, a worn-out tool, or a plank of wood like Ryo's should be treated with profound respect. Acknowledging its inherent spirit, its journey, this deep-seated mindset translates directly into tangible practices like kintsugi.
Ah, yes, the art of repairing pottery with gold.
Exactly, where broken pottery is meticulously mended with gold lacquer. And this isn't just repair, it's an art form. It transforms the breakage into an essential and beautiful part of an object's history, turning perceived flaws into defining features rather than a reason for discard. The object is often seen as more beautiful for having been broken and repaired. It embodies resilience, history.
That's fascinating. So it's about transforming imperfections into beauty, which also ties back beautifully to the wabi-sabi principle, doesn't it? Another core Japanese aesthetic we've touched on before. For listeners who might be new to it, wabi-sabi is about finding profound beauty and authentic value not in pristine perfection, but in the transient, imperfect, and incomplete nature of things. So just as kintsugi celebrates the cracks and repairs, wabi-sabi finds elegance in natural wear and tear, subtle irregularities, the unique character of something that isn't factory perfect. It's a powerful connection between these philosophies, showing how perceived flaws can hold profound beauty and wisdom.
Precisely. And this deep respect for value, this aversion to waste, it's woven into Japanese food culture in incredibly creative and resourceful ways. Think of sakekasu.
The byproduct of sake brewing.
Yes, the lees, the fibrous waste product generated when Japanese sake finishes brewing. Instead of being discarded, it's commonly used as a marinade to enhance the umami flavor of different foods like fish or vegetables, or even used to create amazake, a sweet, nutrient-rich, non-alcoholic drink often consumed during the New Year.
Right.
Another prime example is okara. That's the insoluble soybean pulp that remains when pureed soy milk is filtered to create tofu. Traditionally, okara is never thrown away. It's eaten in dishes like unohana, a sort of paste-like consistency mixed with vegetables and soy sauce, or even incorporated into breads and desserts for added fiber and protein. Even in the highly refined context of fine dining, styles like shojin ryori, the traditional Buddhist vegetarian cuisine, are meticulously designed to ensure nothing edible is wasted. Every part of a vegetable or grain is utilized, honoring its full potential, minimizing any form of discard.
Yet, despite this deeply ingrained philosophy and these wonderful examples of resourcefulness, I understand Japan still faces significant challenges with waste, especially food waste and plastic. It seems like a bit of a contradiction to this philosophical ideal, doesn't it?
That's a complex issue, and you're absolutely right. It presents a significant disconnect between the philosophical ideal and certain modern industrial practices and societal norms. While the Matani mindset is deeply cultural, the realities of a high-volume, industrialized economy can, well, clash with it.
How so?
For instance, strict regulations and rigid aesthetic standards within large chain supermarkets and convenience stores often lead to perfectly good edible food being thrown away, simply because it doesn't meet very high appearance standards or sales targets. I've heard stories, anecdotal perhaps, but illustrative, of supermarket managers discarding an entire batch of carrots because one or two were slightly crooked. A real tragedy from a Matenai perspective, where even the imperfect holds value. It was estimated back in 2020 that convenience stores alone threw away something like 4.68 million yen worth of food per shop per year, mostly due to overbuying to meet sales pressure and strict sell-by dates. This really exemplifies how ingrained philosophical values can struggle against the unforgiving demands of a high-volume, fast-paced modern economy that often prioritizes efficiency and aesthetics over intrinsic value. And plastic waste is another huge challenge, as the convenience culture has led to a proliferation of packaging.
So what does this all mean for us beyond Japan? How does Motenai help shape global sustainable consumption? What are the profound implications here for how we approach resources globally?
The implications are indeed profound and far-reaching. It offers a powerful antidote, really, to our global culture of disposability. It challenges us to fundamentally move from a linear take-make-dispose economy towards one of deep respect for the inherent value in everything, fostering a more circular approach. And we see tangible examples of this philosophy translating into large-scale action. Consider Yokohama, Japan's second-largest city. They implemented the ambitious G30 plan back in 2001.
G30.
Yes, and this plan, deeply rooted in the Motenai philosophy, astonishingly reduced the city's waste generation by 43% between 2001 and 2009. This wasn't just a minor improvement, it was huge.
43%.
It saved the municipal government about $1 billion by allowing them to close 2 incineration plants, significantly reducing environmental impact and operational costs, and they didn't stop there. Yokohama followed up with the 3R Dream Plan in 2011, aiming for further significant reductions in total waste disposal, more than 10%, and associated greenhouse gas emissions by over 50% by 2050, compared to 2009 levels.
How did they manage that?
It involved everything from more rigorous sorting requirements for residents separating waste into 10 categories, things like peat bottles, plastic containers, raw garbage, to extensive public education campaigns. It really demonstrates how a deep-rooted philosophy like Motenai can translate into tangible, large-scale sustainability initiatives, serving as a powerful model for global efforts. It shows that a shift in mindset can drive massive economic and environmental benefits. It emphasizes that waste reduction is not just an environmental burden, but potentially an economic opportunity.
And that's exactly where the profound thought comes in, I think. It's not just about individual actions of not wasting, though that's important. It's about inspiring systemic change. Governmental, industrial change. It's about leveraging this mindset to remind other local governments, maybe companies too, around the world, not to waste their own potential to enact change on a larger scale, to see opportunities where others only see problems.
Exactly. And innovative solutions are emerging from this very mindset, showing how to transform waste into a valuable resource. For instance, some forward-thinking companies are taking food waste from supermarkets and department stores' waste that would otherwise be incinerated, contributing to air pollution and greenhouse gases, and fermenting it.
Fermenting it into what?
Into valuable products like biogas and liquid animal feed. One such company I read about processes around 35,000 tons of food waste yearly, generating a generous profit while producing 70% less greenhouse gas emissions compared to traditional incineration.
That's incredible.
It isn't just reducing a problem, it's creating a profitable, eco-friendly alternative. It truly proves that a deep respect for inherent value, the core of Motenai, can lead to revolutionary solutions for a more sustainable and ethical approach to resource management globally. It transforms what was once considered a disposable problem into a valuable resource, inspiring a fundamentally different relationship with the materials and energy in our world.
So we've talked about Go Kijin for personal well-being and Motenai for respecting resources. But what happens when these ideas, especially Go Kijin, are brought into the workplace? I've heard about a team leader, Kenji, who did just that in a very competitive software company in Osaka. Let's picture the scene. A fast-paced, high-pressure software company in Osaka. There's a team leader, this thoughtful man named Kenji. His team. Immense pressure, launching a new app, grueling long hours, skipped lunches, visibly rising tension. The atmosphere in their section of the office was just thick with stress. You could almost taste the anxiety. Colleagues were wearing exhaustion like a badge of honor, Quick, short-tempered exchanges becoming the norm. Now, the typical corporate response might be a mandatory kind of generic wellness seminar, or some awkward, forced team-building exercise everyone dreads. But Kenji took a distinctly different approach, one rooted in the principles of Go Kijin. He didn't call a big meeting, didn't announce a new policy. Instead, his team slowly started noticing his small, consistent, almost understated actions. Like he would leave his desk at precisely 12:30 p.m. every day for his lunch break. And he'd actually go outside, even just to a nearby park bench, to eat. Before a particularly difficult client call, they'd see him by the window. Not furiously reviewing notes, but simply taking a few deep, intentional breaths, visibly calming himself. If a team member came to him visibly stressed, shoulders hunched, eyes strained, his first question wasn't, "What's the status on the bug?" It was more like, with genuine concern, "Have you taken a break from your screen today?" Or "Have you stepped away for a few minutes?" He was, in essence, modeling emotional self-regulation, a proactive approach to maintaining his own Go Kijin. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the culture on his team began to shift. People started taking short walks during the day without feeling guilty or needing permission. The frantic, hurried energy that had permeated their space, gradually replaced by a more focused, sustainable pace. They didn't stop working hard. The deadlines were still there. The app still needed to launch. But they stopped wearing burnout as a badge of honor. A sense of psychological safety began to emerge, where it was okay to admit you needed a break. This story really demonstrates the incredible potential, doesn't it? Integrating Go Kijin principles into leadership. How fostering self-awareness and emotional balance among employees can cultivate a more positive, resilient, and ultimately productive organizational culture.
That story highlights a truly crucial point. Fostering self-awareness and emotional balance among employees can fundamentally cultivate a more positive and productive organizational culture. Kenji wasn't implementing some top-down prescribed corporate program, was he?
No, not at all.
He was embodying a principle, living out the essence of Go Kijin through his consistent, quiet actions, his personal practice of self-regulation, that intentional mood setting. It became a collective benefit, creating a tangible cultural shift within his team. His actions became a silent yet powerful invitation for others to prioritize their own well-being too.
It's that idea that self-awareness is contagious, isn't it? When a leader models it, it creates this ripple effect. I'm thinking about research I've seen describing how leaders who cultivate emotional intelligence can better connect with their teams, truly understand their needs, and inspire them to achieve their best. It's not just about individual improvement, but about the cascading positive effects on the entire team, almost like a healthy ecosystem growing around them.
That's absolutely consistent with what we know about self-awareness and leadership development. It allows leaders to manage their own emotions effectively, to deeply understand their inherent strengths and, crucially, their areas for development, and to make informed decisions that benefit the whole organization, not just their individual goals or ego. It's truly a critical necessity for leaders who aspire to inspire and motivate their teams towards sustained success, especially in complex, fast-changing environments we see today. Without it, you often see impaired decision-making. Leaders might react impulsively or misinterpret situations.
Right.
There's diminished trust within the team because a leader's emotional volatility can make them seem unpredictable. You'll also see increased resistance to change, as unself-aware leaders might not anticipate or empathize with their team's reactions to new initiatives. And unfortunately, it leads to higher levels of stress and burnout for both the leader and their team members. It creates a toxic cycle, really.
So a lack of self-awareness isn't just a personal problem for a leader, is it? Something that only impacts them. It actually harms the team, the organization as a whole. It's not just about knowing your own quirks, but understanding how those quirks, your emotional triggers, how they impact everyone else around you in the broader work environment.
Precisely. Emotional intelligence encompasses that crucial ability to recognize and effectively manage your own emotions, and, equally importantly, the emotions of others. Self-awareness is consistently identified as its foundational component. It acts as the compass, if you will, for developing all other crucial EI skills. It leads directly to better self-regulation managing impulses, increased motivation fostering drive and resilience, deeper empathy allowing for genuine connection, and stronger social skills enabling effective collaboration and conflict resolution. Leaders with high emotional intelligence are just far better equipped to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics within their teams, to foster a consistently positive and psychologically safe work environment, and ultimately achieve better organizational outcomes because their decisions are grounded in both logical reasoning and emotional understanding.
That brings to mind a particularly compelling large-scale study I recently encountered, one that rigorously examined emotional intelligence training for leaders across diverse industries. It involved, I think, 1,200 mid-level managers across sectors like healthcare, IT, manufacturing, education. And it wasn't just a brief seminar. It was described as a comprehensive 10-week program. Included self-assessments, weekly workshops on emotional control, social abilities, bi-weekly individual coaching sessions, peer learning circles where managers could share experiences, and even mindfulness techniques like guided breathing and visualization. Sounds like a truly thorough and well-designed intervention.
The results of that study were indeed quite compelling. They provided strong empirical evidence for the power of EI training. Participants in the training showed statistically significant increases right across the board. Their emotional intelligence scores went up, on average, from a baseline of about 98.2 to an impressive 112.7. Their leadership effectiveness scores also saw a substantial rise, moving from around 75.6 to 84.3.
Those are big jumps.
They are. Furthermore, the study reported significant improvements in team performance. Teams reported higher levels of cohesion, productivity, and there was a notable increase in employee satisfaction reported as well. These are not trivial gains. They represent substantial improvements in critical leadership competencies and key organizational health metrics, really validating the investment in such training.
And the effect wasn't just short-term, right? Did these improvements persist over time, or did they kind of fade once the training concluded?
That's a crucial question for any intervention like this, and the study did address it. They did a 6-month follow-up for a subset of participants. Now, while the immediate post-training scores saw a slight reduction, for instance, EI scores went from that 112.7 down to about 109.3, and leadership effectiveness from 84.3 to 82.1, the gains largely persisted, demonstrating a lasting impact.
Okay, so mostly sustained.
Yes. And importantly, the study also found that consistent mindfulness practice and ongoing coaching specifically helped to slow down any decay in those gains, which indicates the importance of sustained support, right? Integrating these practices beyond just the initial training period, it raises an important question, I think. If we connect this to the bigger picture of leadership development, how much more can be achieved with ongoing sustained reinforcement, support embedded within the organizational culture, rather than just relying on one-off programs?
And the cultural aspect you mentioned earlier seems relevant here, too. The study found, I believe, that while both genders improved significantly, female participants showed slightly greater gains in emotional intelligence and leadership effectiveness compared to their male counterparts. And in terms of cultural background, collectivist cultures, like those often found in East Asia, showed smaller empathy gains compared to individualist cultures. That implies that while the principles of EI are universal, the training itself needs to be culturally sensitive, doesn't it? Perhaps tailored to account for differing norms around emotional expression or interpersonal dynamics that exist within various societies.
Exactly. The study also highlighted that EI training was more effective in supportive organizational cultures, compared to more transactional ones where employees might feel less psychological safety or perceive relationships as purely task-oriented. It also yielded the highest effect sizes in people-oriented industries like healthcare and education, compared to more technical fields like tech and engineering, where the direct relevance of emotional intelligence might be perceived differently, or perhaps where communication styles tend to be more direct and less overtly emotionally expressive. This really underscores the importance of customizing such training, fitting it to the specific context of an organization, its industry, its workforce, to maximize impact and ensure relevance. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all solution.
So given all this evidence, what does this all mean for businesses? How should they approach employee well-being and productivity? It really seems like there's a strong, quantifiable business case for this kind of investment.
It absolutely suggests that investing in employee well-being, particularly through emotional intelligence and self-awareness cultivation, isn't just a nice-to-have. It's not a superficial perk. It's a direct competitive advantage, a strategic imperative, even. Companies with engaged employees significantly outperform those without. Some studies show them being over 200% more productive. And mindfulness training, which we know is a core component of developing emotional intelligence, has been explicitly shown to boost productivity. How? By increasing focus and decreasing distraction.
Right.
An internal study conducted by Aetna, the insurance company, for example, found that after mindfulness training, their employees gained an average of 62 minutes per week of productivity each, which Aetna estimated to be worth approximately $3,000 per employee per year in enhanced output.
Wow, that's a fascinating quantifiable return. So it sounds like mindfulness isn't just about cultivating a sense of calm. It's tangibly impacting core biological functions, like stress response and sleep, which are undeniably fundamental to overall well-being and, by extension, sustained productivity. Is the mechanism truly about engaging a different part of our nervous system?
Precisely. Mindfulness practice evokes the relaxation response, which actively engages the parasympathetic nervous system. It brings on a physical state of deep rest and actively counteracts the fight-or-flight response triggered by stress. This physiological shift helps people fall asleep quicker and stay asleep longer, addressing a major cause of productivity loss and chronic stress. And research shows it combats workplace stress more effectively and more lastingly than a mere vacation. A Harvard study demonstrated that while vacationers' stress levels might temporarily drop, they tend to return to baseline levels after about 10 months or so. In contrast, meditators' reduced stress levels persisted for much longer periods. Even a Headspace pilot study found a 14% reduction in stress after only 10 days of consistent mindfulness practice. So this integrated approach, from Go Kijin for individual mood regulation to broader self-awareness and emotional intelligence training, is proving to be a powerful lever for better leadership, improved team performance, and overall employee satisfaction. It's about building a resilient, engaged workforce that can navigate modern demands with grace and effectiveness.
So, what we've truly explored today is the subtle yet profound power of cultivating internal shifts. From consciously curating your own mood with Go Kijin, finding those small anchors of joy that Yuna discovered, to embracing the deep respect for value and avoiding waste with matenai, whether it's a piece of wood or a moment in time. These Japanese philosophies offer such practical, timeless pathways to navigate our modern, often overwhelming lives. They challenge us, don't they, to reconsider where true power lies. Not in frantically trying to control external circumstances, which are often beyond our direct influence anyway, but in mastering our internal responses and cultivating a profound appreciation for everything around us.
It's about recognizing that whether it's our personal emotional landscape, our relationship with the resources around us, or the culture within our organizations, the true power lies not in attempting to manipulate external conditions, but in mastering our internal responses. Cultivating that profound appreciation. This shifts the locus of control inward, doesn't it? Empowering us to respond with intention, rather than just reacting out of habit or stress.
It really strikes me how these seemingly small internal shifts, like Kenji modeling his Go Kijin by taking a deliberate lunch break, or the deep respect for a piece of wood that Mr. Tanaka showed Reo, how they can ripple outward, to transform not just your personal landscape, but the very fabric of how organizations and societies navigate the complexities of our world. It's about finding a balanced, purposeful, and more peaceful way to live, drawing on centuries of Japanese wisdom that encourages a deeper connection to oneself and to the world at large, ultimately reminding us, perhaps, that the seeds of profound change often reside in the quiet, intentional cultivation of our own inner states and our relationship with the world around us.